Welcome back, Sober Family. This is another episode of Recovery Talk brought to you by Pro Recovery Power. Now, I've been getting a lot of messages and people want to link up, people want to know what we're about. So I'm going to tell you guys exactly what PRP is. Now, my wife and I are in the middle of turning Pro Recovery Power into a nonprofit organization to help people on a massive scale. Yes, we have recovery clothing. Yes, we go live on the weekends. We got a YouTube page. We have a website. But Pro Recovery Power is in the middle of being turned into a nonprofit organization. That's what we are. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope everybody's having a really good Saturday. If you guys caught the first live with Andrew, who was a fellow Hawaiian, and he was physically here. He lives not too far away from me. And we got to link up in person. He wanted to do the live here in person, so that's what we did, and it was great. It was great. It was awesome. It was so I can go back and watch that over and over and over because he had a lot of wisdom coming out of his mouth, and he spoke with substance, and how what he was like and what he's like today is two totally different people. It's such an amazing thing that happens to people when they apply themselves in recovery. Now, my next guest is she's from the East Coast. I'm really excited for her to be here with us tonight. What's up, guys? Hey, everybody. Sorry. I only look every once in a while to everybody. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. But Andrea is my next guest. She is from the East Coast. She has been sober almost 2 decades, and she's also a sober coach. She will talk more in detail about exactly what it is that she does, what's involved in that, and her story of how she, once struggled with addiction and she no longer does. So I hope you guys are ready for that one. I am really excited. I was on the phone with her earlier today, and I get so excited about recovery, talk about, you want to talk about anything recovery? Psh, I'm in. I don't care what I'm doing, where I'm at. Like, you want to somebody stop me, talk about recovery? I'm gonna talk recovery. It's in my DNA already. It's in my DNA. Now it's in my skin. It's underneath my skin now. So, anyways, let me get her on here, guys. We can get this party started. Oh, all right. There she is.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Happy Saturday.
Yeah. Happy Saturday.
Thank you.
What's the weather like over there? Is it cold?
You know
Hot?
what? It is, it's not that sunny, but it's kind of warm. It's almost 90, so I'll take it.
Oh, dang. Okay. Because I know you're in Jersey, so like winter time, it's like a true winter you guys got.
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. Let's not even discuss it.
It's funny because people that know I'm from Hawaii, they think I automatically like hot weather, but I do not.
Really?
I hate hot weather. I love cold weather. Like, I love cold. Like, I don't really get cold. So like, I could be out in the snow and like, oh, I love it. Like, where I'm from, it's a rainy town, so I really love rain. But I love cold weather for sure.
Yeah, and I prefer it hot. I'll take hot every day. Tank tops and flip-flops all year long. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this and to hear your story, what you have to say. We spoke a couple times, but earlier today, and we talked, and I'm just really excited. Don't want to tell your story for you or anything, but I'm just really excited, to hear your story in its entirety and everything you're doing today and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to. I'm almost giving things away now here, but before we get started, I just want to ask you, how long have you been sober?
October 4th, 2004. So more than 16 years. I'll have 17 years in October.
Wow. Amazing.
I can't, like, I say it out loud and I'm like, yeah, almost 17. Crazy.
Yeah. And where are you from?
I'm from Long Island, in New York. So every now and then, like, I'll get off the phone with my family out there and you'll hear the accent. But yeah, I'm a New York girl, transplanted to New Jersey. I've been in Jersey more than 21 years. My son is 21. So yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a transplant.
And what was your choice in drink and or drug?
My choice of drink was My choice of drink was Guinness and Jägermeister.
Uh-huh.
And my choice of drug was cocaine, and I love to freebase. And then I just got
Yeah.
too lazy and I just bought crack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're very similar in that aspect. Hey, what's up, Kyle? Sorry, one of my friends
No
from the
worries,
Big
no
Island is
worries.
on
I'm
here.
very grateful to be here. Thank you for
Yeah,
everyone that's
and
jumping on. That's
yeah.
wonderful.
Hey, Kyle, I'm coming back home, bro. In September, we gotta link up. I'll call you. I'll call you up, bro. But anyways, I'm sorry.
No, no,
Real
no.
quick, before I give you the floor to tell your story, I'm just gonna make a few announcements for people who's gonna watch this, who are on here now. You know, I post this after it's over. If you guys could, I talked about the vision for PRP in the beginning. Go to our website, prorecoverypower.com. On the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little survey questionnaire. That'll help us move the vision forward for Pro Recovery Power, you know, and getting out more into the communities, giving back and helping people and things like that. Also on Wednesdays, every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have a recovery meeting. It's 12-step based, but it's non-denominational. All fellowships, all support groups, everybody is welcome there. You know, it's mainly geared toward drugs and alcohol, but if you got a sex addiction, OA, overeating, gambling, it doesn't matter. Addiction is addiction. You're welcome as
Right.
well. So at this time, I'm really, really excited about this and to hear this, to hear your story in its entirety. So go ahead, take it away.
Okay. Again, Alika, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone that's jumping on, everyone that will listen to the replay. You know, when it comes to sharing my story, I still get nervous like 16 years later. And I think that's a good sign, you know, like if I was like, oh, I got this, then there'd definitely be a problem with my level of humility, right?
Right.
But I mean, so what I'll say is I'm 52 years old. I'm married to a wonderful man. I have two beautiful children. Elijah is 21, a senior in high school, and I have a beautiful daughter. She came with my wedding band. She's 19. And, you know, to live this life of sobriety allows me to, in a nutshell, be present, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, this pandemic has thrown our kids in a loop, right? Like
Right.
my daughter didn't get to go to prom. I didn't get to go to her graduation because it could only be her dad and her biological mom. We did have a little party in the backyard, but it's not the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? My son was a junior and he had transferred schools. And because of his work ethic, believing that he needed to be a student as well as he needed to work, he was already taking classes online. So when the pandemic hit, it wasn't this huge transformation that he had to make. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he had his time management already. He knew how to participate via Zoom and things like that. But it's been a crazy year. I can say that I am extremely blessed that I haven't missed a day of work. If anything, my work has increased, which I'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
But so what can I say? My story is not any different than anyone else's. You know, I tell everyone, you know, don't try not to focus on the jewelry, my accent, my hair, my
Mm-hmm.
glasses, the color of my skin, right? It's not about comparing, it's about identifying, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have this hole in our soul, in our spirit that we fill with men, women, clothes, work, booze, shoes, whatever your vice is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what we're filling it with. You know, and I'm just one elbow's length away from losing all the, you know, all the bells and whistles, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I have shiny things, I have a beautiful home, I have a nice truck, blah, 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 blah. But one shot in one bag and I'm back on the A train. You understand what
Right.
I'm saying? Like I'm
Uh-huh.
one shot away from thinking I'm okay while I drink and I drug, right? While I sell my
Mm-hmm.
body, while I exchange my body for the next one. So I'm what's considered a late bloomer. I didn't have my first drink until I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by my mother. My dad was my father was addicted to drugs most of his life, and he died as a result of that. And so I didn't have my first drink until I was 21. I'll tell you what, I loved it. I loved it. By the time I started drinking, I was already fully involved in corporate America. I was, I was working downtown at a tennis club, the two white bubbles across from the seaport. And I was, really living life and thinking that I was rocking and rolling. And little did I know that this thing that swirled at the bottom of the glass would bring me from commuting on the train from Long Island to New York to living on the train. Like the drink it was everything. It made me smarter, prettier, funnier. I thought I could dance. I still can't. But I was like, all of a sudden, I wasn't this short, chubby black kid from Long Island. Now I was like this funny, gregarious, flirtatious, woman of the world. And I could drink most men under the table. And that's what made me successful in corporate America. The brokers that I worked for, by now I'm on Wall Street, and the brokers that I worked for were very precise in what they were doing. It wasn't any mistake that they sent me to close the deal with the old white guy. Do you know what I mean? And this is not about race. This is about business. This is business, right? You send the pretty girl, you send the funny girl, you send the girl that can have a couple of drinks, do a couple of lines to seal the deal. You know what I mean? And life was really good until it really wasn't. Until it really wasn't, And I remember going to the Christmas party. The Christmas party was on Friday. It was at this huge hotel downtown. And that's really all I remember. But I remember Monday morning being on the E train and going to work and just being miserable, like, the greatest thing about working on Wall Street was that I made a ton of money, right? But it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wasn't following my dream. I was miserable. And I knew that if I didn't get out soon, the money would suck me in and I'd never be able to leave, because I would become accustomed to this lifestyle. And where else without a college degree, I mean, not unless you're a plumber, are you going to make a ton of cash, right? And I'm not a plumber. I don't know, like I can flush the toilet and that's it. But so I got to the office. I don't even think I didn't even make it to the office. I called and I quit. I got off the E train. I called, I quit. I crossed the tracks. I went back home and I went out to Montauk for a little while. And most people know that Montauk is like the eighth wonder of the world. It's the furthest point out on Long Island that you can go without getting wet. It is absolutely beautiful. Sandy beaches, private beaches, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful food. The people are lovely. Lots and lots and lots of money, and old families. And I remember I'd gone out there a couple of weeks before and I'd met this guy. There's always a guy. And at least one, right? There's always a guy. Anything to take me outside of myself, right? Because I didn't want to deal with myself. I didn't want to deal with my issues. I was fine, right? And for all of us that have been to rehab, we know what FINE stands for. I'll keep it clean. I'll keep it clean. And I went out to Montauk and I hooked up with this guy. And I can tell you, I never went back. I lived out there for like 3 or 4 years, and I got a job as a waitress, as most of us do. And what do you do as a waitress? You drink and you drug, right? And that was my life. I lived in this beautiful house with this great guy and a dog, and we had access to a private beach. His family owned a very big restaurant out there, and they still do. And it was great. I waited tables and I drank and I drugged at night, and somebody introduced me to, I remember he was at a restaurant convention in Boston and I was home alone, and I was like, all right, so I'm going to get a 6-pack and an 8-ball. I'm going to find the closest house party. Right. And I remember this guy said to me, have you ever freebased? What do I know? Right. I'm like, no, I haven't, but teach me. Right. I'm not dumb. I can learn. And he taught me how to freebase, and I fell in love with the process. My stomach was flipping just watching the process, right? And then he taught me how to smoke, and I was like, I don't think I slept for 5 days. I don't think I slept for 5 days. Don't get it twisted. I'm not glamorizing booze. I'm not glamorizing crack. That was my reality. You understand what I'm saying? At the time, it was glamorous. I lived in this rich town. I was partying with these rich guys and girls, and life was good until it wasn't, right? I was able to drink. I did a couple of lines. I went to work. It was this, it was that. And then my paycheck didn't cover my habit. And I was living with a man that could do a couple of lines and put it down. And I'm like, what planet are you from? Who does a couple of lines and puts it down? And so I had to get creative. And one of the things that I did was I broke into our house, right? We had a cash business, and we had a tenant upstairs that was traveling. And I remember breaking in on the second floor and not taking all of the cash, but just enough. And that kept me high for a little longer, right? And I, as we do, I befriended the people at work that use like I used, right? Because that's how we roll, right? Yeah. If I see that you're keeping up with me at the bar, I'm chilling with you the next day, right? If I see that you've got a 20 bag and you're doing it on your coffee break, I'm chilling with you, right? Yeah. Because then my addiction and my alcoholism is not so obvious. We're using at the same level. So I'm going to chill with you, right? And I started working more, and I wasn't home a lot. And, and things with us went south. And I moved back up island, which means I wasn't on the east part of the island. I was back west, and I moved in with my mom, which was unheard of. I grew up in a house where once you left, and unless you came back in a wheelchair, like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? I didn't raise you to live in my house at 22, 23 years old. So that didn't last. I started couch surfing. I was a waitress again in the city, and I found the people, the busboys, the chefs for sure, that partied like I partied, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, if you worked a double, you worked from like 11 to 4, and then we shut down the restaurant for the dinner setup, and we had to be back at like 5:36. By 5:36, we were rocking and rolling. We were 2 pitchers in, half an 8-ball in, and we were working the floor, and I made like $200, $300 a night, and I didn't have a token to get home. Yeah. I didn't have a token to get home because everything I made, I drank, I snorted, I smoked, right? And of course, everybody's buying rounds and nobody's thinking about the next day. And, I would get to work and people would be like, oh my gosh, you did this and you did that. And I thought that they were lying and or exaggerating because I didn't remember any of this, right? It wasn't until I went into the rooms that I learned that I was a blackout drinker. But I'll get to that. So, so now I'm in the city and I'm a waitress, and things are getting bad, and they're getting bad really quickly. I'm running through friends. I'm stealing from my coworkers. I'm sleeping with strangers. I mean, let's tell the truth, right? I'm doing things way out of character to get the next one, to keep the high. And let's also tell the truth. Are we really high? We're not high anymore. We're chasing the first one, right? There's nothing like that first one, right? There's nothing like the first hit. And that's what I chased for all those years. And I never found it, but I didn't know. I didn't have the knowledge that I would never get that high back. I just knew that I needed it, and I was going to do anything I had to do to get it. So I did all the things that come with active addiction. I lied, I stole, I slept with strangers, totally degraded myself. And now it's time to get it together. My mother's crying. I'm missing graduations. I'm not showing up to weddings. And I remember going into Nassau County Medical Center, and I remember when the doors locked behind me, and I was on a 72-hour hold, and I was like, now what do I do? You know? And I remember going to my first AA meeting. Now, look, it wasn't because I wanted to get sober. It was because that was the only place you could get real coffee in the hospital. So I was like, bet I'll go to this meeting, right? And it was filled with a bunch of old men. I don't remember what they said. I wasn't there for that. I wasn't there to get sober. I was there for the coffee. And so I was there for 72 hours. I got out. I did the same thing over and over again, right? Detoxes, rehabs, detoxes, rehabs. My addiction took me from living in this big house, access to a private beach, to sleeping on the A train. You know, my mother was like, when she finally got hip to what was going on, you know, because I cried the blues. I fell in with the wrong crowd. I didn't know. It's not that bad. At least it's not a needle, you know. And what parent wants to admit that their kid is an addict, right?
Right.
So she believed the lies for a little bit, and then she was like, you can't stay here, you know. My mom's like this strong Black woman, and she was like, if you want to die, do it on the other side of the door. Like, I don't have time for this. You know, my mom's working on getting her RN. She got her bachelor, she got her MSN, and now she's got her PhD. Please. That's a whole nother lie. You understand what I'm saying? My mother is incredible. And I remember leaving the house, and I was like, okay, bet. If I can't live here, I'll figure it out. And that's what I did. Like, I slept on this person's couch. I slept on the A train. I lived in Central Park for a little while. And I became this person that I didn't recognize. I didn't know who I was. This hole that was in me that I had started filling with a couple of beers and a couple of lines was now massive. And no matter how much I drank and how much I used and how many people I surrounded myself with, the hole got bigger and bigger and bigger, and nothing I did would fill it. I was never, ever satisfied. And I remember going off to this facility in Garrison, New York. It's called the Walter Hoving Home. And I remember being there, and that's where I found my higher power. That's where I began to get sober. And I got with the fact that there was something greater, and it wasn't me. I needed a higher power, and my higher power is God. I am a Christian. I'm a believer. I'm born again. Christ is my savior. I'm convicted by the Holy Spirit every day. And that's where it really began to take form, began to take shape for me. But I still thought that I could handle it, and with 9 or 10 months under my belt, I left, against medical advice, and I relapsed. And that became a vicious cycle for me. I went to therapeutic communities where, part of the punishment was to rake the sun off the volleyball court. Ridiculous. We sat in these chairs for like 5 days and dropped our guilt. Who's dropping their guilt? We're alcoholics and addicts. We're not sharing information. This is not our strong suit. You know what I mean? So now we're sitting in these chairs for 5 days, and we're just waiting for a damn smoke break. I'll tell you anything you want if you let me smoke. You know what I mean? I slept with this counselor. No, I didn't, but I'm going to write it down because I want to smoke. And that became my life. I went to a lot of rehabs. I went to a lot of detoxes. I relapsed a lot. When I finally really, really, really tried, I went off to Florida. By now I'm married. I have this beautiful 3-year-old, and I've got my son was born January 10th, 2000. That was my sober date. He was born on my 3rd. I was 3 years sober, and he was born without any anesthesia, and the nurses were coming. They hadn't seen it before, you know what I mean? And it was really important for me for my son to be born naturally, because the amount of drugs that they're going to give me to feel no pain are going to affect this 7-pound baby. Look, no judgment to the women out there. You want to get knocked out? Get knocked out. That's your business. I'm talking about what I did for myself and for my sobriety. And shortly thereafter, my son was two and a half, and I was using again. I didn't make enough meetings. I didn't have an accountability partner. I didn't have a sponsor. Look, I'm not that person that says that AA is the only way. I went through AA. I'm also a sober coach. I'm also a sober companion. I'm a firm believer that you get sober the way that works for you. This is my story. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not telling you it's the big book, it's the 12 and 12. Look, it's whatever works for you, right? So I went off to Florida. My husband at the time had amazing insurance. And I got sober in these condos with tennis courts and a pool. And I changed my sober date in rehab. I really did. I was in like 7 relationships, and they were like, you can't stay here. They were like, you have to go. And I was like, but I can't go home. Like, my husband didn't want me. So they're filling out the transfer paperwork for me to go to another part of Florida. And I walk across the street to the deli to buy cigarettes. And I'm not kidding you. There was a 20 bag in the middle of the street. And I changed my sober date in rehab. So I go to rehab. Again, lots of groups, lots of meetings, dealing with a lot of things, not just, okay, so you drank too much, so you used too much, but like, why? Do you know what I mean? I grew up in a neighborhood where I didn't fit in. There was a lot of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse. These are things that I began to deal with in treatment, and I came back and I stayed sober for a little while, and I relapsed again. And I was like, I remember being in a meeting and they do the countdown, like who's got the most time, right? So we started at 30, 29, 28, and we got to 5. And I stood to my feet, proud as anything, raised my hand with 5 years. I had like 5 minutes. And, but I wasn't going to tell you that, right? And so now I'm using again. And this time it was to the extent where I was like, I was beginning to lose my mind. Like, I was losing touch with reality. Depression was setting in, bipolar, the whole 9. And I spent a lot of time, almost 5.5 months on the psych ward. I couldn't read for like a month. I mean, my brain was like mucus, you know what I mean? And I would sit in groups and I would try to listen, and I really couldn't. I was medicated. I had sleeping meds. I had depression meds. I had bipolar meds. I had it all. And I was on this unit for so long. They let me leave on the weekends to spend with my mother and my son. Like, I had passes from the psych ward. And when I finally got out, I went into a shelter, a homeless shelter, and I went into intensive outpatient. And I got a resume together and I started working. And that was almost 17 years ago. I got sober through the rooms of AA. I have the same sponsor that I had 16 and a half years ago. I've done a lot of work. I have a lot of sponsees. I have surpassed any goals that I ever thought. All I wanted to do was not drink, not use, and not sleep with strangers. That's all I wanted. And I wanted to be able to show up to this beautiful, beautiful son that I had, And what it turned out to be was I went and I got my certification. I am a sober and trauma coach. And that is like, a lot of people say to me, oh, how can you do that? We're supposed to give it away. Yeah, I'm supposed to give it away, but I'm also supposed to pay my mortgage. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm not, if you come to me as a client, I'm not taking you through the big book. Like, that's straight wrong, right? I'm not asking you to pay me to take you through the steps. I do have sponsees, but I also have sober clients that I teach how to, when they come out of rehab, when they come out of sober living, I teach them how to shop, how to budget, how to be in a relationship, how to get out of a relationship, where to go to get help for certain things, domestic violence, trauma, whatever the case may be. These are things that a sponsor does not do. Sponsorship is beautiful, but I went to school. On top of my almost 17 years, I went to school to learn how to be a coach, to learn how to not let you get too close, to learn how to not get too close, and anyone that says that it's wrong to make money to keep people sober, that's ridiculous. I bring more value to people than their hairdresser, than their manicurist does. I go to my doctor. I have a thyroid condition, and he says, I have a patient. Can I give him your number? I know the value that I bring to the table, right? We were talking earlier. Women pay $300, $400, $500 to get their hair highlighted, frosted, layered, cut, the whole nine. But you're not going to pay me to teach you how to live sober? That's on you. That's not on me. And you're not going to shame me for paying my mortgage, for monetizing something that is going to change your life. I have no idea what my clients are going to become. I just know that if they stay sober, they can become anything that they want, right? And so I have clients that range from 1 day sober, 10 years sober. They're just looking for, look, we throw the word sober around, right? But there's plenty of us that are walking around sober and crazy, clean and crazy, not drinking, but still miserable, right? And so I can get you from that place of, why am I so miserable? I might as well drink, to living your best life ever, to living the best version of yourself, to leaving that bad marriage, to not being a slave to the corner office. Look, I was a slave to the corner office, and I remember that Thursday like it was yesterday when they fired me, and I was like, what are you talking about? And that's when I decided, you know what? I'm not going to be a slave to the corner office. And I opened up my own business. It's called Andy's All Around, and it's elder care, child care, household management, personal assistant, and that company pretty much runs itself. And then I decided I was going to go to school and get my certification for coaching. And you know what? I've paid all my bills. My son goes to college. I pay his college in cash. I am not boasting about how great I am. I'm boasting about sobriety. I could not do these things if I was smoking crack out of a Coke can. Like, are you kidding? Seriously? These things don't just happen. I did the work. I've got journals. I've got highlighters. I have, I pray, I meditate, tons and tons and tons of service, because I can't give you what I don't have. Right? Like, there was a time when I had 10 sponsees at one time, and my sponsor was like, you might want to take it down a little bit. And I was like, yeah, but she's like, you can't make up for the years that you've lost. She says, you have to stay where your feet are. You have to be present. And if I'm not really of service, then I'm doing harm. Right. So I did have to ask a couple of people to move on. I know how to take care of myself. I know how to take a nap. I definitely know how to shop. I mean, I can get down. I rented a house Memorial Day weekend. It rained the entire weekend. I went to the Jersey Shore Premium Outlets. It was not a problem. Trust me when I tell you. I will celebrate October 4th, 2021, God willing, and I will have 17 years. Thank you for letting me share.
All right. Hey, thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you.
We have so many different things in common, even though, you're from one side of the planet, I'm from the other side, like literally, Jersey and Hawaii is really far apart, but, a lot of the things that you talked about, even though your experiences may have been different, like our drugs of choice was the same,
right?
Your experiences was different, but the thoughts you thought, I thought. The feelings you felt, I felt it too.
Right.
All those things is so similar to me, and like, because I got sober in 12-step program, and I'm just grateful that was like my first week going to meetings, I believe. I heard somebody say, focus on the similarities, not the differences. I actually knew exactly what that person meant as soon as they said it. Because I guess somebody was complaining, and it was not a crosstalk meeting, but it just so happened,
Right.
that happened. And I understood what that person meant.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, that's all I did, because I could be like, hey, but you Mexican, I'm Hawaiian, you're a girl, I'm a boy.
Right.
And I'm missing everything. Everything is just going right over my head because of my closed mind,
Yeah.
but I really enjoyed like how you talked and described the sober coaching aspect of what you do, because like I've had I let me just say this.
Mm-hmm.
People are not so excited and thrilled about me getting paid for doing 12-step work. It's not all 12-step work though. See, that's the thing that people
Right.
don't understand. Unless you're in the field, then you're okay. But in treatment in general, the 12 steps is a pretty big part of it. But that's not all it is though. That's not all it is. And I like how you said, you talk about there's more to it than just that. And it's not, you don't take them through the big book. Yes, it's 12 steps basically, and you help them create a design for living that works for them. I
Right.
mean, that's all money. That's the gold. That stuff. It's like
Money.
whatever works for you. I mean, like not literally money, but like that's gold. That's
Mm-hmm.
good. But it is literal money too. But that's whatever works for you. Because where 12-step culture that I have seen since I've been sober, um, it's I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but it can harm reduction is a big one. People is very frowned upon in 12-step culture, but for some reason people kind of miss the fact that it saves people's lives too though. you
Right.
know kind
Right.
of thing. It's not just it's the people who are just sober, no program, that have been on methadone for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a little different story. They got no program, they just don't want to put the pipe in their mouth anymore or the
Right.
needle in their arm, or anything like that. But it was so great the way you described it. I want to go back and watch this over and over again too, and I'll be
Thank
calling you all
you.
the time and picking your brain.
No worries. No
you
worries.
know, because another thing I found out is that we both got the same God. That's another thing I found
Yeah.
out too.
Yes.
And I mean, man, without a relationship with Him today, I would not have the life I have today.
Right.
Everything that I learned, every literature, every book in school, the big book, any kind of piece of literature, recovery based, it has helped me. But ultimately, for me personally, God is the one that keeps me sober, and
Right.
He has put different people in my life to help me along. Like God has never come down physically and said, "Here, do this, do that." No, He's never done that.
Right.
But I'm just so grateful that I do have a relationship with Him today.
And we
So
really need to, I think it's important, and I'll probably get dinged on this, but that's okay because I'm not expecting everyone to agree with me. We all have the right to our own opinion, but
mhm,
the reality is that you can get lost and hide in the rooms of the fellowship,
mhm,
right? I had a
yes,
sponsee that went to 3 meetings a day. She went to work, she came home, she went to meetings again. And I said, when are you applying this
mhm,
work? When are you dating? When are you going out with girlfriends? When are you visiting family? When are you doing any of this? It's like just like I didn't get saved to hide my light under a bushel.
mhm.
I got saved to go about my Father's business. I
Right.
didn't get sober to sit in some church basement for the next 100 years. I got sober
Yeah.
to let other people know life is great. There is a solution. This is
Mhm.
how it works. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's be about it. Let's live about it. Because, seriously, meetings are great, but I didn't get sober to sit in a room and talk about
Absolutely.
how I used to smoke crack and sleep with strangers. I got sober to live a life, to pay my kids' tuition, to get married, to get divorced, to get married. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we have all of this around us and we think that so you go from one room to another room.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's not why I got sober. And so as a sober coach, as a sober companion, I will show you, teach you, and help you navigate life as a sober person, living the very best life. This is not the life that I imagined. Like I said, all I wanted to do was stop drinking, stop using, and show up for my son. I'm doing so much more than I have a life beyond my wildest dreams. And as long as I don't drink and use, I have no idea what the next 17 years look like. I don't even know what the next 7 days look like, but I know that they're going to be great. And when they're not great, I also know that I have the tools to not pick up, to not act out, because I don't have to pick up to be crazy.
Yeah,
right?
no, not at all.
I can have some emotional relationship with somebody other than my husband. I can spend too much. I can be angry. I can curse. I can overeat. There's a ton of things I can do to act out. Yes, absolutely. 1420 Hawaiian. I love it. Got sober to live.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I was telling somebody basically everything you just said once about, like, I didn't get sober. Like, getting sober wasn't necessarily the goal. That's where I started to live my life,
Right.
That's where life started to happen for me. It is suggested not to get into a relationship early on. I was maybe 6 months sober and I met my wife. Like you talked about this person who would go to meetings, go to work, go to meetings, and then when do you apply it? Like, oh, I got to apply it in my relationship with my wife when she was my girlfriend, and I continue to get to practice it with her now that she's my wife and my son, and at work, co-workers, different personalities. Well, oh, I gotta apply some patience here, some understanding, maybe put myself in their shoes instead of you pissed me off, you did this, you did that, da, 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 da. You know what I mean? All these different things. Like, oh my God. I got opportunities all day long to grow my faith and my patience, my tolerance, my compassion, my love, and it's like going to the gym, like you got to exercise your muscles in order to get them, basically, Same kind of concept. One of my buddies, Adam, I don't know if he's on here. He's also a counselor, but he talked about sobriety and recovery and how it's different. And I never heard anybody say it like this. I understand there's a difference, but he said sobriety is like going to the gym and recovery is like lifting the weights. I was like, that's a great analogy, man. That's it. But as we are winding down, I got some questions to ask you.
Sure.
The first one might be obvious, maybe to some viewers, but it is, what made you get sober? Is the first question.
There was a fraction of me that didn't want to die. And when I say a fraction, I mean a fraction.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't live like this anymore. Trust me when I tell you, it wasn't that dramatic. It was, something's got to give here. Because for as much as I was using, I should have died.
Right.
But since I wasn't, I was like, let's try something different, So I tried something different.
That's awesome. And then, you got a different result. So that's cool.
I did. I did.
Okay. I like this question. This next question is, what's harder, getting sober or staying sober?
Getting sober. Boy, bye. Let me tell you right now, if I pick up tonight, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Clubhouse, who? Andrea, who? Yeah, no. Andrea, she's not a key. Trust me when I tell you, I'm out. I'm out. And it's really just that simple, you know? But to stay sober, once I learned what I needed to stay sober, the tools, the phone, the journal, the book, the highlighter, the prayer, the meditation, the power greater than myself, it became like not leaving the house without my earrings.
Right.
That's what it became.
Okay, next question is, you never really talked about it, but what was your bottom?
My bottom was, I had gone through program. I'd gone through detox, gone through program, gone through a halfway house. I had an apartment of my own. And every time I would get high, I would pray that that would be the last hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember calling my mother that night. It was really like 4 a.m. And I didn't say anything, but who calls you at 4 a.m. other than your junkie daughter, right? And she was like, Andrea, I know it's you. I don't know how to help you. And she said, call Karen. Karen is a woman that actually mentored me when I was getting married the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I hung up with my mother and I called Karen, and Karen called the Englewood police. And don't you know that the police officer that showed up was a pastor?
Oh, wow.
And he said, do you want to go to Englewood Hospital, or do you want to go to Bergen, or do you want to go to Bergen Pines, Bergen Regional? And I said, I want to go to Bergen Regional because I'd been there before. And I knew that their program had a lot of substance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it really started for me.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, it's amazing how that worked, you know, it's amazing.
God is good.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So you did speak a bit about it, but it's good to hear it again, you know.
Yeah.
So as a sober coach, what do you do?
So many things. Of course, I teach the importance of not picking up
Mm-hmm.
and using the phone and having a network. And if meetings work for you, go to meetings, whatever meeting it is, OA, CA, GA, I don't care. Just get to an A. Or, you know, not everybody can identify in meetings. Some people need the one-on-one, you know, and those are the people that I really work strenuously with. You know, I teach them I give them a routine. You get up, you do what you did when you were 5 years old. You get up, you wash your face, you brush your teeth, clean underwear, new bra, make your list, right? Lists are good because as addicts and alcoholics, we're so hard on ourselves. But when we can begin to take things off our list and have sober references. Okay, so I went to this job interview and I didn't drink to celebrate after. I didn't get the job, but I didn't drink to comfort myself after. I teach people how to navigate through life, whatever that looks like. Parents, relationship, job, new apartment. I am a sober companion as well, which means that I spend days with people. You know, I'll meet up with a client at 9. We'll go, hey, Anthony, we'll go food shopping. I'll take them to Target. They'll have a budget. They'll have a new apartment, a new house. I'll teach them how to do those things, right? Like we don't know how to do those things. Look, I knew how to get a bag cheap, right? I didn't know how to go to Target and furnish an apartment on $500 budget. So yeah, I mean, I'm literally teaching you how to live life sober.
Yeah. And that's awesome. I think that's so wonderful that you're doing that because, you know, you're right. Like sponsors, they don't do that. I mean, that's not the purpose of
not their job.
being a sponsor. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not their job.
Yeah. You know, it's not, you know, and, you know, teaching somebody because like, you know, people who are just trying, you know, like newly sober and they don't know how to pay bills. They don't know how to look for an apartment. They don't know how to put a resume together. They don't know how to go shopping and furnish their new place.
And they need somebody to be by their side, right? And a sponsor doesn't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. Look, I'm not a big book thumper, but it says somewhere in the book, this is not our full-time advocacy.
Yes.
This is my full-time advocacy.
Yeah.
This
Absolutely.
Is what I do.
That's great. I know there's so many different facets to being a sober coach. It's like I can tell already. I mean, that's just a few of them you mentioned, though. But, you know.
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, and then the last question, Andrea, I would like to ask you is that what would you say to encourage the newcomer or somebody that's trying to get sober right now?
You're worth it.
Yeah.
You don't believe it. And you may think that the things that you've done, the places you've been. You can't be forgiven. You can't start over. No one will understand. Those are lies. Those are lies. As we continue to use, we know what we're going to get. Death, destruction, self-degradation, right? When we get sober, when we stop using, we have no idea. Do you think I thought this was going to be my life? No, I never thought that. I never thought that. My son is going to graduate college this time next year. He's going to be a college graduate. What? I was in rehab. My son was 3 years old. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's amazing, you know.
And my son is the first person I speak to on my anniversary every year.
Oh, really?
He calls me every year. Congratulations, Mom. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great, you know. Because, like, your son has no memory of you being drunk, being high.
No, he doesn't.
Doing none of that, you know.
Which is amazing, because the last time I used, my son was 3.5. He should have some inkling, and he doesn't.
Wow.
He doesn't.
Amazing. You know, it's so, I'm so happy I get to talk and go live with people like you and learn and listen to your story. It's very encouraging, inspiring at the same time, you know, because like through addiction, it really like forged a great weapon against itself when it tried to take my life, you know, because I have a purpose today. Out of all of this stuff, a purpose was birthed out of all of this. And, you know, I have a lot of purpose in my life, and I'm very, very purpose driven. I really am. And, you know, I don't necessarily need extra motivation, because I already know the call God put on my life. I know why I'm on this planet now. Like, I don't need, you know, it's just, I just, boom, just, you know, let me out of the gate. I'm gone, you know, kind of thing. But
another thing that I'll say that is very important is anonymity, right? So my son is 21. He's essentially a grown man. But I kept my recovery very quiet until he became an adult. You know, now if you look on my Facebook page, you'll see me celebrating. You'll see me talking about, like for Memorial Day, I said, it's Memorial Day weekend. Who's going to remember it? Who's going to be sober? Who's going to be drunk? I said, I'm going to be sober. I know that. I'm going to be sober. And if you need help getting and staying sober, you know, my number's out there. Call me, text me, whatever. But I didn't do that when my son was 10. I didn't do that when my son was 15. When I became a parent and I became sober, all of that became, yes, if I wasn't sober, I couldn't show up for him. But I'm not putting my sobriety on blast when I've got a 15-year-old. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He needs to be, it's all about him. Now, as an adult, I can go out and heal the masses and help the masses and recover out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me, you know, especially being a parent myself. And that's cool, you know, because I mean, it really sounds like, you know, you're because a lot of people are so, you know, when they get some little bit of time, they just want to just blah to everybody, and you had the like, I don't know what you would call it, but you were able to put that on hold because it was all about your son. And then, you know, when he became an adult, then okay, you know, that tells me
not to mention the fact that, you know, as we enter into the workforce, don't think that your employer is not checking your social media. So, you know, I see these before and after pictures on Facebook, and I'm like, what are you doing? Not unless you work for yourself or an employer that doesn't care. You need to take that picture down with your scars and your 7 numbers and your red cup filled with poison. What are you doing?
Yeah, that could totally work against you, you know.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
yeah, oh yeah. I understand that one. But I mean, I work in treatment and everything, so like for me, but other people, like they got, you know, they got like, you know, jobs high up there in corporate America, and like they want whiff of that, they'll let you go. They won't tell you that's why. They'll make
They
up
won't tell you
something
that's
else.
why, but you will be gone on Thursday.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's very important. I'm glad that you did bring that up, the anonymity part. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, you know, we got to do this again. You know, we got to do this
Please
again.
do.
Like
Yes,
an hour goes by like that. We can
it
talk,
does.
you know, different topics and things like that. We can go live with 4 people all together now on Instagram. There can be
Yeah.
2 other people as well. We can do maybe a roundtable discussion,
That would be
something
great. I
along
would
those
love it.
lines. Because I really enjoy like listening to your story and listening, you know, a
Thank
lot of
you.
substance is coming out of your mouth,
Thank
you know,
you.
and it's like I'm drawn to that kind of people, you know. I'm like, I
Mhm.
can learn from these people, you know, and I can, what can, you know what I mean? And it's not just like, oh, I know everything, like how I used to think, oh my gosh, I didn't know nothing. I knew
Right. The
everything
more
going
I
into
know,
the
the
room.
more I don't know.
Yeah. Like I was so like uncoachable, unteachable,
Yeah.
like walking into the rooms. That's the mindset I had, you know. But
Yeah.
like I was saying, you know, today I learned to listen and listen to learn. You know, the more value I can add to me, the more value I can add to other people around me. You know, it'll
Absolutely.
be up to me though. But I really appreciate your time. I will
Thank
definitely
you.
be in touch with you for
Please
sure.
do. Please do.
Yeah, but thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you so much.
appreciate this.
God bless. Have
Have
a
a
good
great
one.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, that was Andrew's story. I always say this: if you or somebody you know has a story to tell of how you recovered from a addiction, please, I would like to hear about it. I think people out there need to hear about it. People are struggling and people are dying, to be quite honest, out there, and they need some hope. And you could be that hope for somebody. They can come across my feed one day and look at your story and go, "Wow, I'm gonna reach out to this person," and that gives you an opportunity to be of service to them. So we will be back next week, Saturday. And also to remind you guys, this Wednesday, I will actually be broadcasting our Pro Recovery Power Hour, our recovery meeting in the state of Wyoming. I'm going to be out there with Marty. Marty's taking 20 years on Tuesday, and I'm going to be out there. We're going to be celebrating. I'm just so excited for this. I have never met him in real life yet, and it's fine. We've been friends for a long time. It's finally gonna happen. I'm really excited. Me and my family are going out there to celebrate him. It's a big milestone. 20 years, no drink, no drug. So again, guys, hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in.